So everybody, guess what's the thing? This is a thing. Let's chase an ant. Go get him! That's ridiculous. Look at him go. I am the spider. Unbelievable.
Originally released in 1991 for the Macintosh. That's what Wikipedia is telling me anyway. I'm not exactly positive on that one. It does say 1991 right there in the copyright. But all of my magazine research shows absolutely no reviews from 1991. So I'm thinking late 1991 for the Macintosh. And 1992 for all other systems. Of course, Wikipedia doesn't even mention that it was designed on the Macintosh at all. It was absolutely designed on the Macintosh first. So I'm thinking 1991 Mac, 1992 for MS-DOS, Windows 3, and the Amiga. And 1993 as well. 1993 it came out for the Super Nintendo. Super Nintendo is a vastly different beast compared to the original PC-oriented games that we are showing you here. Worth checking out if you got the time. It's different. I definitely prefer the PC versions here. It was designed and published by Maxis, even for the Amiga. They did this one in-house, in America, NTSC game. The Amiga version came with 3 discs, an installed disc, a low-resolution disc, and a high-resolution disc. Yes, this game is capable of displaying in 640 by 400 high resolution in 16 colors. It looks very, very nice in that mode. The magazines were saying it required a 1 meg of chip RAM in order to run in that mode. I think it's 1.5 meg, personally. I'm sure I've tried it before, and it would not run on my Amiga. I think it's 1.5 megs, actually, but perhaps I am wrong, because regardless of even if it was capable of running in that resolution on my 500, I'm going to say it's not going to run very fast, because even in low-resolution mode, it's playable in low-resolution mode, but it's a tad sluggish at times. If you want to see some real slowdown, check out the Super Nintendo version when you're approaching 100 ants simulating at the same time. Whoa, the Super Nintendo really slows down. But yeah, all things considered, the Amiga version is quite nice indeed. The game came with absolutely one of the finest manuals you will ever see constructed in your lifetime. Nearly 200 pages of just fascinating material about the game itself, about ants. I'm telling you, everything I've retained about ants in my lifetime is thanks to this game. From page 80, introduction. Ants live everywhere on Earth except the coldest and highest spots on the planet. They live in deserts, jungles, swamps, cities, mountains, boats, airplanes, and houses. There is even a recently discovered species of ant that only lives in government buildings in Washington, D.C. I thought that was some kind of joke at first, but reading on later in the manual, it's actually true. Ants are amazing little creatures that do things you may have thought only humans do, like dairy farming, keeping herds of aphids as cows and milking them for food, vegetable farming, growing underground gardens for nourishment, career specialization, often changing careers a few times in their lifetime, childcare, taking care of their young by protecting and feeding them, and education. Older, more experienced ants work with the younger ants, teaching them the tricks of the trade. Ants also do things you wish humans wouldn't, like living in a constant state of war with other ants and enslaving other ants, making them work and even fight for their masters. They also do things you hope no human would do, including eating dead enemies after a battle, even the enemy's eggs and babies, and eating their own old and weak, and even their own eggs during times of food shortages. Ants are small, but they are among the most important creatures on Earth. They are important to the cycles of life. They move at least as much soil as earthworms. They bring plant material deep into the earth and enrich the soil. ants that make their nests in dead logs, speed the process of decay, and hurry the returning of the nutrients in the wood to the soil. They collect seeds, and the ones they don't eat grow into new plants. They pollinate some plants. Ants are among the leading predators of other insects and small invertebrates, including other ants. Ants also cause damage. Carpenter ants can damage wood homes and buildings. Leafcutter ants can wipe out farms. Fire ants can also cause problems for farmers, as well as cause pain to humans. They bite. By tending aphids, ants encourage them to do crop damage. Quite a complicated species indeed, much like ourselves. This is the third game in the Sim line. Sim City, of course, being the first. Sim Earth would come after that. SimAnt was number 3. I believe it's officially classified as a simulation. Of course, Maxis gave it their moniker of a software toy, a game that has no real goal. You set your own goals. It's actually the most game I've ever seen out of a sim title, I would have to say. I think we're going to read from one reviewer later on that's going to disagree with me there and say that Sim Earth was more of a game, and this is returning to the Sim City kind of no goal thing. I completely disagree with that. This has a goal. Now, there is an experimental mode you might have seen when we first started up the game. That is the most, software toy-ish this game really gets. And I'll show off that at the tail end of the video, but it really doesn't offer you too much, especially compared to like a SimCity or something. The experimental mode of this game, the toy aspect of it, doing whatever you want to do kind of thing, it's quite limited. And the meat of this game is absolutely in the game, which is the full game here. It's your set goal. You have to get rid of all the red ants, and you have to get rid of the human. You do that by making sure every last red ant is dead, and taking over most of the yard and taking over most of the house. And once you have done that, the game is over. And you have to restart at that point. That is not exactly a software toy, if you ask me, because there are set goals, and once you achieve those goals, the game is over. I think this is the most game any sim game ever got. So, that might be a bad thing if you are into that software toy kind of thing. It might be a great thing if the sim games never were your thing and you wanted actual game out of them. There is an actual game here, I believe. Let's check out Amiga World, the American magazine, July 1992. Talking about turning your Amiga 500 into a CD TV, which is something that oddly is becoming intriguing to me for some very strange reason. I don't know, but it's pulling at me. For some reason, I kind of want to get a little CD-ROM for my 500 there. $3.95 in America, $4.95 in Canada, and £280 in the UK. A couple special things to show you before we get to the actual review. This is later on in the year, November of 1992. We got a little holiday special going on for some Psygnosis titles. Maxis, Dynamics, Bitmap Brothers, Microprose, Infocom, and Divasoft. And under Maxis there, SimAnt, based on real ant biology and behavior. SimAnt gives you the experience to live as an ant. $39.95. Here's an add-on for my exact GVP hard drive. It uses these internal pins that allow a special proprietary board. And I guess I thought this at the time, but I wasn't absolutely sure about it. But this allows 286 PCAT compatibility for your 500. Chief concerns that month, the sad death to the American magazine Info, or .info. Many disliked Info, mainly for its rambunctious, often obnoxious style. I'm not one of them, and I'm not either. In fact, we will be seeing Info a little bit later on. They did manage to review SimAnt before they went under. SimAnt, the Electronic Ant Colony by John Ryan and Insect Sim City. SimAnt, the Electronic Colony, Maxis Software 5995 is a system simulation that is not only educational but utterly enjoyable in ways that may surprise you. SimAnt strips you of any preconceptions you may have had about the insect world and indeed brings your thinking down to the level of the ant. Plunked down in the backyard of a suburban home, you must nurture and expand a burgeoning ant community. Along the way, you'll have to contend with spiders, antlions, marauding red ants, rain, lawnmowers, pesticides, and of course, thoughtlessly placed human footsteps. The graphics of SimAnt are as good as or better than SimCity's. In fact, you can play the non-copy protected, hard drive installable game in either low-res or high-res modes. The manual, which is the best I've ever seen, recommends at least a 16 MHz accelerator for the high-res mode. Without one, the graphics are a bit cumbersome and slow, even switching from map to map in low-res. Even so, I was extremely surprised by the quality of both graphic modes, and the sound effects are just superb. A few sessions with SimAnt can change your whole perspective on the ant world. You find yourself really caring what happens to them and loathing those careless, tennis-shoed humans in the house. Now that is the kind of review I'm all about. John Ryan, that's a good one. Just it'll change your whole perspective on the ant world. Look at this. Look at what you are seeing right now. This is an incomplete in-game encyclopedia. 200 pages of actual manual with which to sift through, countless pages in the actual game. Unbelievable. This, look. Want to learn about the aphid and how ants milk their behind there? It's all there for you. You might have seen the little cutscene earlier where the ant was kind of throwing up to the other ant. That is, they all share it's called a crop. So the ants eat something. They have a small stomach for themselves and a larger stomach for the entire colony. This is all stuff you can learn through this game. A simulation, technically. Maxis likes to call it a software toy. Some magazines call it a strategy game. I think strategy also goes with it. But also it could be an educational game as well. I never saw this one in any of my schools personally. I have definitely read that some people had it in their schools. I think scenes like the aforementioned throwing up scene, it might have been a little too much for some schools to handle. Like SimCity, that one was absolutely in these schools. I remember Sim Tower, I remember being in these schools. Sim Town, I remember being in there. We had some sim games going into the educational system. SimAnt is not one that actually went in there. But nevertheless, I learned incredible amounts from SimAnt, reading that incredible manual back in the day, just playing the game, just watch it and just see them go. Now, you might have just noticed on screen that the Red Queen has died. She died from starvation. We just took all the food in the plot of land, and she did not have enough. Red Ants could not get her enough. And so she is dead. We are in the first colony in the game. We have destroyed the Red Ants, which actually is not the best strategy if you are wanting an easier game. Because what happens, I found, when you defeat the Red Ants in the very first plot, before you go to another section of land, automatically, you see that where it says two red colonies? It always goes to that top section right there. It always goes over there. When you defeat them in the first plot, they get a freebie. They get a freebie over there, and they will quickly spread to other places in the yard. So if you're wanting an easier game, you might want to intentionally let them stay in the first yard. Don't kill them off, because that might seriously hamper their growth later on if they stay in that first plot. But if they get a freebie way over there, it's going to be much more challenging for you as they proceed unimpeded throughout quite a big section of the yard there. I had to check out info a few months prior, April of 1992. Price tag of $3.95 in America, $4.50 in Canada. Hey, 500 reasons to buy an Amiga 3000 before April 30th. Here we have The Renaissance of Amiga Games by Tom Malcolm. This may not be 15th century Italy, but there is a definite renaissance going on in the realm of computer gaming in general and Amiga gaming in particular. There are treasures from the past, importance of the future, and some of the best games I've seen in years. I can't remember the last time I reviewed 4 5-star games in a single issue. Since the beginning of 1992, what had been a trickle of Amiga games has become a flood. Where a few months ago I had to scramble to dig up enough games to fill a space, now I'm sitting here with my shelves overflowing. Next time, I promise I'm going to play catch-up with those titles I've had to neglect. This time, stay tuned! It's a great time to own an Amiga. Hey, 1992 in America. Dig deeper, friends, that's all I'm telling you. This magazine itself would go out of business in several months from this writing. But I'm telling you, there's more to the story than what you are hearing online. We like the Amiga. SimAnt, Maxis 2 Theater Square, Suite 230, Orinda, California, 94563. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I wanted an ant farm so badly that the pages where they were shown in every Sears, Pennies and Wars catalog, oh, you're bringing me back, were worn thin and smeared with my kid-greasy fingerprints. My mother, however, would never consent to letting me have one. The ants might get out. I'm sure it left a serious emotional scar, too, leading me into a life of software reviewing and similar crimes. There's something intrinsically mesmerizing about watching small creatures under glass and having complete, godlike control over their lives. Now that Maxis has released SimAnt, I have more than satisfied my childhood longings, and I'll never crisp them with a magnifying glass again. Like other Maxis simulations, SimAnt can be taken on several levels. It is both a game and a serious simulation, highly playable and painlessly educational. In fact, I'm starting to fear that if I play much longer, I'm going to sprout 4 more legs and a pair of antennae. I've learned more about the behavior of ants than I ever could just by observation. By actually controlling them and learning to behave as an ant, I have a much better understanding of what little things are doing in my front yard. The graphics are very good in low res, but high res really brings them to life. The sound effects are disgustingly wonderful. Ants frequently feed by regurgitation, and the sound when they do is violent enough to delight any junior high kid. The manual is beyond thorough. It's 176 pages. Not only take you through the game step by step, but also has the most information on ants this side of an entomological textbook. It's witty, well-written, and almost as entertaining as the game. Maxis has done a bang-up job with SimAnt. It's their first major Amiga release since SimCity over 3 years ago. Actually, I don't care. I'm having such a good time with SimAnt, I'd rather not be distracted with anything else just yet. My colony is growing. The red ants are on the ropes, and the local homeowner has a worried look. I'm going to make him rue the day he ran his lawnmower over my nest. And finally, for info, there was even an advertisement for SimAnt in that one. Walk an inch in my shoes. I want you all to pay some attention to the human in this game. Now, does this remind you of anything? Now, little computer people often gets a lot of the credit for the inspiration for what become The Sims. And rightfully so. I think Will Wright has even mentioned little computer people. It's definitely an inspiration. It's just You watch the little guy. He's got his little dog there in his little house, and he does things. That is the inspiration. However, I think the more direct evidence, is right here, right in front of you, right now. It's SimAnt. This really is the basic look of the Sims way prior. Little computer people, the layout, everything is much different. So he got some inspiration there, but then he channeled that, and he was already thinking right here. And he's putting it together. You can tell right now that he's putting that idea of the human going around. This is the Sim. He is the Sim. And he's going around his house. He's doing his things. He's saying some charming things. He even has a hidden back room, just like the little computer person did. So yeah, he's little computer people is the overall inspiration, but the direct descendant of the Sims is not little computer people. It is SimAnt. Now during my run, I did notice a couple bugs actually. There's a couple buttons you press in the Amiga version. You get a guru, one in particular, I think. And as you see here, I'm going to read you a Computer Gaming World review, and they're going to note a little bug that the game had in the Macintosh version. And that was when it was raining outside and you switched to an indoor plot while it was raining. What would happen is you get, where the rain would be is you got these chemtrails, like this is insecticide, just being drowned upon the entire plot. Now, the human can spray some insecticide, but I don't think he was doing that in this instance. And because it's raining, like they didn't understand. Well, it's a bug that was in the original Macintosh version. And Computer Gaming World, they have something to say about this Amiga version that you might want to see here. So Computer Gaming World, from March of 1992, another $3.95. They must have all set their prices there, didn't they? Maxwell Eden. Deceptively simple and seductively intriguing, SimAnt is the latest system simulation from Maxis. The game casts the player in the role of the Yellow Ant, commander of the Black Ant Colony. By overcoming insect and human enemies, plus rival red ants and other perils, the Black Ants can prevail as masters of the universe in a suburban backyard. To be honest, SimAnt probably won't blast the socks off the game jockeys who are used to warping off on a mission to save the galaxy from an evil empire. Nevertheless, gamers who are willing to come out of hyperspace and down to Earth for a while won't be disappointed. Although patience and resourcefulness is the substance of the game, there's enough ant bloodshed to keep players on their toes, even if they're bent on carnage. Also, there are a few other surprises. For example, no one should ignore the mystery button. The spider may have a trick or two up its 8 sleeves. I have played this game since it was new, and I only just found out that playing as the spider was a thing you could do. Blows my mind. Ant misbehaving. The Macintosh version has a few minor bugs which, while not detrimental to play, are particularly annoying when compared to an otherwise fluid design. If a player moves the yellow ant to a black colony inside the house while it's raining, the screen looks like an ant hallucinating from insecticide. Maxis is aware of these bugs, and fixes are in order for the next release. IBM and Amiga versions are not infested with these problems. Oh, Computer Gaming World, you made a mistake by not actually verifying. You took the company at its word and you printed it. No good there. Players seeking a non-linear, unconventional, and provocative strategy simulation will hit pay dirt with SimAnt. The game is easy to get into, stimulating, fun, and becomes increasingly challenging. The depth of game control, while complex, is well integrated so as not to be a nuisance. Plus, the SimAnt concept offers fascinating science to boot. Indeed, SimAnt will surely invade and colonize classrooms from elementary school to university, and students will love it. Computer Gaming World. Now, I'd like to get back to something the info review was saying. He's talking about how he he would never take a magnifying glass to another ant. Now, hopefully speaking, most humans at some point in their life, I'm sure everybody has gone through that phase where, you know, they were killing, you know, the little creatures and taking magnifying glasses to them and stuff like that. Hopefully, we evolved at some point to regret that, feel bad that we did those things. Now, I know I did that. I did that before I played SimAnt, I think. But SimAnt definitely helped me feel that even more. Now, if I see some ants in my house, I'm gonna spray them. I'm probably gonna step on them too, you know. But outside, you know, it's I've even been known to occasionally catch a spider in some Kleenex and take them outside myself. You do, you know, start to feel a little bit more for these other things that are inhabiting this planet with us. And playing a game like this, absolutely. You know, it's a game, it's fun, it's, you know, a challenge. Well, not particularly for me anymore. This one, I consider it rather easy, actually. I don't think it actually is, because I did load myself up on quite a few long plays after I had finished the recording. And most of these people playing, you know, it wasn't easy for them. I found it easy to the point where this is my third recording of this game in the last year. I did a complete playthrough of it last year, and I finished it too quick in my eyes. I was like, wow, this must have been a fluke or something. This was just way too easy for me. So I had all that footage, and I was just like, no, I don't know. I sat on it and decided I got to do it again. And, you know, towards the end of last year, I started recording again, and it just like before, I finished it way too easily. And so I did it a third time, and it was still, you know, I did a couple things differently in order to make it a little harder for myself, but it was still, for me, I found this stuff easy for me. I really wish, I will criticize the game, and there is no difficulty settings. I kind of wish there were some difficulty settings. If there were, I would have definitely gone to a harder difficulty, because I want more challenge, you know, in a game like this. This is a big, deep game, and I think it is challenging based on everything else I've seen and I've read. You know, this, like, people were having super hard time. Like, they were like, oh, I don't think many people at all will ever finish this game. And I'm like, well, I just finished it 3 times in 1 year. And backing up my personal opinions that it's easier for me is, I guess, the fact that I beat it several times as a kid back in the 90s. This is talking about gaming memories here. I'll always remember the very first time I beat this one here. It took me it was a long journey, lots of saves, lots of time spent to beat this game. And I don't think it might have been the first one, but I don't know. I've got several of them in the actual manual. At the end of the manual, I wrote down some of them. The first 3 here are from the 1990s. So Chris Ant was the save game name. Score of looks like 4,761,520. Rating great. I wasn't the greatest speller, you know. Then I had a quick game there, which is a much less score, obviously. But number 3 there, I have another one that looks like a score of 5,323,954, which is actually better. It is a better score Then number 4 there, which is this game right here that you're seeing. I went and, just for old time's sake, I put the little Shut 97 there, full game. They score a 4,813,612. Well, mission from Elvis was the thing it did. I'm sure, I think that's what it said. Probably in the 5 million game, but, you know, that was a very long sentence for me to write at the time, so I just said great. I spelled it right by the 3rd time, though. I did spell great right by that point, so it was a couple years later, I imagine. I got a better score back then, wouldn't you know it? Now, I just got done showing off a bit of a trick that I think it's in most plot yards, and I don't know if it's in every one, but at some point in the bottom layer of the nest is a hole that leads directly to the red nest. I found that one back in the day just by building huge nests. I built tons of these massive networks of nests. I remember back in the day just going to each plot and just spending tons and tons of time there. It really saddened me that once you go back, if you ever go back to a plot that you have previously been to, all of your work is erased. That's unfortunate. That's a tiny little bit of a criticism there, is that it doesn't save the information that is in those plots, really. All of your work is destroyed, even if you just go back right after you go to another one. Go back immediately, it's all gone. So it only saves the nest that you are currently in terms of, you know, I did treat it a lot like SimCity back in the day. I built these really elaborate networks of the nests. Just like exploring that deep underground area, which on the computer version, it's a vast area. The nest is vast, the whole yard itself is vast, and I somehow managed to find that little hole, and it led me directly to the red nest, where a whole lot of sneak attacks went on back then. I think the guy that I watched play it on the Super Nintendo, that was the only way he could win it, was he did that for pretty much every single red ant, black ant battle. He used that little cheaty method by going back. I just wanted to show it off for you guys there, but overall I was doing it the respectable way. This game, it can be a bit... This is why I don't think I saw it personally in the schools, because look at this. You fell into an antlion trap, the ugly brute toys with your puny body before sucking your guts out. This is Sierra level crap, you know? The death messages in this game, they are pure Sierra. Is this Maxis or is this Sierra? This is... Wow, really got a kick out of the death messages in this one. And yes, you can even play as the Queen. Again, that's another one I didn't learn until recently. Yeah, and the eggs, they come out a lot faster when you are the Queen. So that might be a good strategy, actually, is to dig a nice little section out, switch out to the Queen, and just hammer out those eggs. I'm going to even have a little bit of fun with the Queen here and take her on a little journey, you'll see. And like the last review with Lemmings, I just got so many reviews, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to them all. But here's Amazing Computing, another American Amiga magazine, the original Amiga monthly resource. They're all $3.95, I swear. Steve King does this one after Maxis followed SimCity with SimEarth, soon to be released for the Amiga. So, SimAnt is actually the second Sim game when it comes to the Amiga, but third overall. Most computer gamers looked upward, speculating that the next release would be an all-encompassing game, such as Sim Universe. They were unfortunately looking in the wrong direction, and should have been gazing downwards at their own backyards. Maxis' latest imaginative entry is SimAnt, the Electronic Ant Colony. SimAnt is not for everyone, particularly those who might get a bit squeamish with scores of realistic little ants crawling around the screen, often devoured by the spider with appropriate digitized sound effects. But like everything else Maxis seems to do, SimAnt is visually and audibly superb, creative, and a whole lot of fun, especially for the kids who love to amass hordes of ants and march them off to get Mr. Spider. I wanted to give a John Nichols here from Rockford, Illinois, Rockford Peach, a little shout out here because I was so sure that this guy was a little troll. One of the features in SimAnt is the ability to switch from one ant to another by picking the ant to trade bodies with. You can also pick the spider to switch with. Abilities of the spider to hunt for prey or to chase and eat any ant you pick. This was what I read that was like, oh, right. I had already done all the footage for the video, and I'm like, all right, I gotta set up the camera again. Let's see, this guy's a troll or not. And no, I thought he was trolling. He was not trolling. Let's quickly check Electronic Games, EG's 1992 Game Awards. Under Best Strategy Computer Game, cartridges outsell floppies 5 or 10 to 1, but the computer is still supreme when it comes to brain games. Time is a factor in the vast majority of video games, but those who want to immerse themselves in contemplative strategy inevitably turn to computer software. And this is why I think you're all making a mistake when you cover platformers over and over again on the Amiga. All you do is cover the European platformers. I'm saying they, dime a dozen, especially when you go to the consoles, which far outsold the Amiga even in Europe. This is where the gold lies for the Amiga and all computers. It's in these types of games. SimAnt. After building cities in SimCity and planets in SimEarth, players were ready for this ingenious excursion into the minuscule domain of the humble ant. This is much more than an electronic ant farm. Players defend the ant colony and struggle against the forces of nature, the incursions of mankind, and the menace of the ferocious red ants. Dragon Magazine, February of 1992. Macintosh version price not applicable. This is where I think February 92. Maybe even the Macintosh version did not come out until 1992, despite that 1991 copyright. Somebody dig deeper on Wikipedia, please. Few entertainment companies maintain a reputation as innovators. Maxis Software is one of the few that strikes out on its own and produces such smash hits as SimCity, SimEarth, and now SimAnt. SimAnt is certainly more than a game. Through your control of a black ant colony, you learn more about how they live, work, and die than you could have ever learned from the Discovery Channel. Enjoy yourselves. Learn a lot about ants and buy SimAnt. It's well worth the cost. As we win the full game, let's check out what the Europeans think. Here's Ace, Advanced Computer Entertainment, I think. SimAnt must obviously be rated against the other innovative creations from Will Wright. Forgetting the Commodore 64 classic Raid on Buckling Bay, published by Broderbund, Wright is best known for SimCity and SimEarth. Now, I've never been a fan of the latter software toy. It's far too complicated and doesn't even feel anything like amusement. SimAnt scores are over SimEarth. Therefore, on successfully mixing entertainment and education, nevertheless, SimCity remains the best of the brood. This is probably because it's the closest to a straight game out of the three. You can't win SimCity. There's no. I love SimCity. People just. Oh man, get some facts in your opinions. Please get some facts into your opinions. You want to like SimCity more than SimAnt? That's utterly fine. I probably agree with you. But if when arguing that opinion you say it's because SimCity is more of an actual game than SimAnt, your opinion is wrong. It's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of fact. This is more of a game than SimCity is because you can win it. The Amiga version, after the annoying delay with SimEarth, Maxis is personally handling the Amiga variation of this one. It should be ready or released within the next couple of months. ST, sorry, there are currently no plans to convert SimAnt onto your computer. Letters of disgust and dismay should be addressed to Ocean. Why Ocean? I believe Ocean published SimAnt on the Amiga over in Europe, but why would the publisher be addressed as to why it's not when Maxis themselves is the one handling it? Here's Amiga Format from July of 1992. First there was SimCity, then came SimEarth. Next you're expecting SimUniverse, or at least SimGalaxy, but no, it's SimAnt. Instead of running a planet or even a megalopolis, you get to handle a bunch of insects in someone's backyard. But before you wander off, bored, have you ever considered the complex world ants live in? They've got a well-structured society with workers, soldiers, nurses, efficient communication systems, and Atari STs. They are only ants, after all. And you can control it all. All this is novel, good fun, and educational in its detail, but the problem arises with its speed. Controlling the ant's movement slows the Amiga down terribly. Windows open and close arthritically, and the action stops while the computer cogitates endlessly. This lack of speed ruins SimAnt. If you click too quickly, you can even crash the program. Once the ant's novelty wears off, you aren't left with a deep game, and it's possible to explore it pretty thoroughly in a couple of sittings, even with its slow updates. Really, for those who liked weird Sims and love ants. Absorbing at first, and you can have fun in the experimental mode. Delves into anti-culture well, and there's an excellent and informative manual, too. Full game is long, but not too tough. But God, is it slow and awkward. 73%. Not a single American magazine had anything bad to say about this game. I imagine on a PAL system it was indeed slow. Again, this stuff is coming from America. NTSC, it runs faster over here. You know, it's still sluggish at times, but it's completely playable in NTSC mode. It is unfortunate, you know, that Europeans always think of these American games as so super slow on their PAL systems. I mean, that's what it was. It's unfortunate they couldn't have, noted it for your audience, which is a PAL audience. Maybe it's too slow for over there, but in terms of historically the game itself, you have to take note of its origins. Zero Magazine, April of 1992, devoted the entire cover to SimAnt. SimCity was like a drug. You got hooked on it. If you've played it, I'm sure you'll go along with me. SimEarth, I have to admit, I never really went for. Screenshots on the back of the packaging put me off. Complex or what? And I'm a bit thick when it comes right down to it. So SimAnt had me worried. Could I pull it off? I loaded a SimAnt and clicked on things to see what they did. It was 6 o'clock in the evening. I discovered what they did. It was 6:20. I became completely obsessed. I was an ant. I made my first little barrier out of rocks. I quashed an incoming tide of army reds by leading a spider towards them. I discovered why it was useful to keep pebbles inside my nest. I won my first game. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. I finally went to bed at 7 and slept until lunchtime, and then watched Home and Away. So nothing unusual there. And I've been hooked ever since. Even though I've already finished the game several times, it says in the manual, which is excellent if a little corny, that SimAnt isn't a game, it's a software toy, a backyard filled with ant colonies, and it's right, of course. Where SimCity never really ended, SimAnt ends quite often, but always in a different way. There's even an experimental mode where you can build ant arenas and mazes, place as many ants or other color wherever you want, and then test them or just kill them, whatever. It's a SimAnt construction editor, basically. What more can I say? I've killed real ants in every way imaginable. Flaming petrol, boiling water, magnifying glasses, gunpowder, and... Oh my God, you have a problem, my friend. You have a problem. I don't think this guy is like the one reviewer said I'm never gonna hit him with a magnifying glass again. This guy, wonder where he is today. But he did love the game. Graphics 93, addictiveness 94, sound 80, education 93, and overall 93%. In terms of other European reviews, I mean, it's a mixed bag. Some of them loved it. Some of them, it wasn't just not a game for them, I guess. All the American magazines did love it. I love it. I think it's a classic game, and it's great on the Amiga. I hope that some of the Europeans might switch their Amigas into NTSC mode, or use their accelerator cards, or play it in high-res, too. High-res is a very attractive mode, and I hope we'll give it another chance, because this is more of a game than SimCity is. So if you don't like those kind of software toys, this is the most game that was ever in a sim game, definitely. And that particular opinion is not a matter of opinion, that's a matter of fact. It is the most game of any sim game there ever was, despite what that one guy said. And I always kind of found it easy. There's a couple people that seem to be on my track of thinking there. So again, that might be, in terms of these more in-depth games, that might be the perfect kind of game for some of the Europeans to get into first. Give it another shot, I say, if you're over in Europe. At least realize that, you always thought that we didn't care anything about the Amiga over in America, especially into the 90s. You thought that you saw quite a few examples of that not being the case over here. We still got games over here. We were still making games over here. They were more in-depth games. So maybe we didn't make as many games, but they were in-depth. They were good. You might not personally. They might not be your cup of tea, but you have to at least understand culturally that this is what was going on here, and with your games that you love so much over there, those same games, we didn't want those games over here. I believe that we're both wrong, okay? There's some of those platformers are good, and we need to take more note of them. Some of these simulations and things are absolutely wonderful. You need to take more note of them. Great games overall. Let's check them out more. I love them. I can still remember my sister laughing pretty hysterically when the silly message came with one of the larva eggs, and they're like, I think I'm turning male. I can remember her laughing when she saw that. This is a video that's been in the work for several months now. I was a little concerned if I was going to be able to make it special. I think I did that, as with all of them. I seem to think they're the best video I ever done once I have done them. I hope you will check out the written review at shot97retro.blogspot.com. Check me out on Twitter. Twitter.com/Shot97Retro. Subscribe if you want to see more of this stuff. And check out some other videos. Of course, we're going to shoot you towards the other Maxis game that I have already covered. SimCity. I covered both versions, but especially noted for the Europeans who I've never seen on YouTube show off the 64-color extra half-bright mode SimCity. This game came in package with 2 discs, a 512K version at 16 colors, and 1 megabyte RAM version at 64 colors, confirmed by taking a screenshot on the Amiga and loading it up in Deluxe Paint. 64 colors. And nobody online seems to ever cover that version, and they don't even realize that it came with 2 discs. It might be because they never had the game back in the day, or they never got it legally back in the day. So they don't understand this, and even on some forums out there, they're debating. They don't think, there's no way it's 64 colors. It absolutely is 64 colors. It is special because it is 64 colors. Check it out. Check out King's Bounty. It's a strategy game that I covered. A hybrid strategy / RPG. I loved that review. Check that one out. Perhaps I've been hard on some of the European stuff, so check out Turrican 3. That's a game that even the Europeans don't seem to like in terms of the Turrican games. I think it's the best Turrican game, and it's a European game, so check that one out. I did a review on that. It was a good one. And, of course, check out Little Computer People. I did that one for the 30th anniversary of the Amiga. And, yes, definitely the sim aspect of this game with the human can't be ignored. Check out Little Computer People. See you all later. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye.